The definition of a friend, I know we all know what that is, but it's a person that's usually outside of your family that you share a mutual bond of affection or esteem or trust and support, someone that you enjoy being with. And Vicky has been all of those things for me. The scripture, 1 Peter 4:10, each of you should use whatever gift you have to serve others and be faithful stewards of God's grace in its various forms. That is what I've seen her live out.
That was Cheryl Hall, our guest Vicky Crawford's best friend of many years. I'm Morenike Ogebe, and this is Elevating Good podcast. Today, in honor of Women's History Month, we're doing something a little different. You're going to hear from Vicky herself, a retiree with 44 years of federal public service, EEO champion, disability employment pioneer. You're also going to hear from the people whose lives she shaped, because the truest portrait of a person isn't only painted by the subject, it's also painted by everyone she's impacted. Hello, listeners to Elevating Good podcast. I'm so excited to be here with a very, very special guest. And this is someone who I believe has some wonderful words of wisdom, many years of experience in the working world and public service, who has something important to share with us for women. And so with that, I'll just go ahead and get started. I have with me Vicky Crawford, and Vicky retired in 2023 with 44 years of public service. She had a distinguished federal career with the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, where she served as a senior EEO Specialist in the Office of Equal Opportunity and Inclusion. In that role, she championed diversity, fairness, and equity principles that strengthened workplace culture and built trust across a large, diverse organization. She has been influential with changing the culture and leaving an impact on those she encounters. I am one who can vouch for that. For many years, she was actually on my team at USCIS. Having worked in civil rights for most of her career, she has often had to help individuals at all levels in various fields with broadening their perspectives, as well as recognizing the value that others possess. She also worked and held positions with the U.S. Marine Corps, the U.S. Department of the Navy, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, and details with the U.S. Department of Interior and the U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Although she had a very successful federal career, she's even more committed and passionate about serving others who need such assistance as food, clothing, funds, and mentoring. She believes that you must serve where you are before serving where you're going. A favorite quote that affirms her being a servant is by the late General Colin Powell, who said, "There is no end to the good you can do if you don't care who gets the credit." Vicky is married. She has 2 sons, 6 grandchildren, and loves spending time with her family and teaching life skills to her grandchildren on a regular basis. She instilled in her grandchildren that if you believe, you can achieve. She was born and raised in North Carolina with parents who were farmers. They taught her a strong work ethic and the value of hard work. So welcome, Vicky, to Elevating Good podcast.
Thank you so much, Morenike. I'm really blessed to be a part of your podcast on today. So I'm excited.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you. As I said, we worked together for many years, and I know firsthand that Vicky brings to her work dedication and a true heart for service beyond the bio. And so it's such a pleasure to have you here on Women's History Month and to just honor the work that you and other women have done and are doing to make a difference in our communities. So, Vicky, for listeners who are just getting to know you, can you tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you have dedicated your career to beyond your bio? Just fill in like a little bit more about yourself.
I'm the youngest of 7 kids, and I was just born working on the farm. And so, working on the farm, you really have to go in the conditions of hot weather. So it has allowed me when I came to live in the Washington, D.C. area, that was a promotion for me because I was no longer working on the farm. I really embraced that hard work because it taught me hard work is good for you, and it sets you up for other things to come because life is not always going to have those easy jobs. And it just showed me working with other people. And my father was the farmer, and we worked with him. And as a family, we worked together. So it taught us teamwork. It taught us hard work.
Wow. And it's something about farming. I've talked with you many times about my own mom, who grew up in Mississippi, and she also came from a family of farmers. And she also credits that, with giving her dedication, hard work, commitment, teamwork. I think sometimes in our history, we tend to want to dismiss those things that were hard growing up. Yes. But sometimes those are the things that really teach us the things that are most important in life.
It really does. It really does.
So can you tell me what were the influences on you today? Like what would you say most influenced the person who you are today?
My mom worked on the farm, but when she stopped working, she found time to serve others in the community. And that looks like taking a child to the bus. Not her own, but other kids in the neighborhood, keeping children when their parents were at work. And some of those things I learned after she passed away. But I knew she was a servant because when we would come home, she would assign us things to do for other people. And so my father was that person that bought, he worked and brought the money home to make sure we had the food and clothing. But it was my mom that showed me serving others has no limits.
One thing I can say about Vicky, I just treasure the way she's intentional about everything. She's very intentional about family. She loves her family. Like I say, I go way back with Vicky. Been there with her at the family gatherings, been in her home several times visiting, and we just always have a lot of fun with her. And in all seriousness, she's someone I can certainly talk to because she's a great listener. And if you have something you want to tell her in confidence, then you definitely can rest assured and go to the bank on nobody else is going to know about it. She's very inspirational, and probably the challenge I would say is that a lot of family members probably depend on her, and go to her because she's the youngest sibling in their family, but yet she sometimes acts like the oldest because if you want to get something done, you go to Vicky and it is going to get done. And she and my husband really had this type of relationship where they're always, joking with each other, but he knows that she's very dependable and he can trust her to get things done for the family. I tell you, sometimes she acts like the older sister, and she's a very caring person because she puts the needs of others, ahead of herself. If she has a passion about helping someone or helping a family, she is going to enlist the rest of us to chip in as well. And she'll say something like, I have this project going on, and if you all can contribute something to help. And then, like I said, Vicky gets things done. So all we do is say, okay, Vicky, we look for something next week or count us in.
That's Rosalind Crandall, Vicky's sister-in-law for over 48 years. And what she's describing is the same pattern Vicky says she's learned growing up on that farm in North Carolina. A servant doesn't work alone. She builds a team. Vicky continues talking about her family and her mother.
And that her kids were grown, but she found time to pour into other kids that were not even related to her. And she taught them life skills that we didn't even know, like how to bake cakes and how to cook. We never knew this until she passed away.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So was it those people that told those stories?
Yes, yes. Yep. Like, your mom would go to the bus stop and walk my son to the bus stop and stay there until the bus comes. My great niece, she would keep her Monday through Friday, and she taught her how to cook and household things and, how to be a little young lady. And we never knew that.
Amazing. That is amazing. How many siblings did you have, Vicky?
7, and I'm the youngest.
Wow. And so how many are living now of your siblings?
All 7 are living.
Are you the only one in public service, or are there others that have are serving in the public service?
No, I have my brother. He still works on the farm. My brother that's next to me. I'm the youngest and he's next. He still works on the farm. My sister-in-law, she worked in the school system. And then my other sister worked at Western University in Danbury, Connecticut.
So all doing some sort of service still
Yes,
serving.
yes.
Do you have a mentor or role model you think that helped to shape your direction in life?
Other than my mom, I just saw the need of others, and I just had a desire to want to help them. Because at one time I felt like I didn't have a gift. And so I was like, God, I don't have a gift. I was basing my gift on a friend who sings, sews, and does hair.
Oh my gosh, it was a triple threat.
Right. So I was like, God, I don't have a gift. And I was in my 20s. I said, God, I don't have a gift. And then things started happening, and he started showing me I did. And I was thinking like I had 40 years of serving, but it's been longer than that. It's just I had an opportunity, and I didn't serve when I made it in the government and got, like a mid-level job. I was serving at GS3 and GS4.
So for those who are not familiar with public service or federal government service in the U.S., what is a GS3, GS4 level? Like what's the income?
It's a clerk type. It's kind of like a low grade. It is a low grade in the federal government. So I was that for a while. And there was a young lady who was going to Howard University, and she came to work for my office, and she was struggling. So I helped her. So I don't believe you need to be in some level to help someone. I believe you need to be in that space that you're in and serve that person with what you have.
That's
and
powerful.
I've really been blessed to serve. And people ask me, well, how do you know her or how do you know him? I don't get into the semantics of why that person is in need. I just want to serve them where they are.
She would help a stranger. If she met them and they were on the metro or the bus or whatever, if she found out they had a need, she's going to find a way to connect with them. I've seen her help countless students that were graduating. She'd help them learn how to get scholarships and apply for scholarships and make sure they had things for college that they needed. She would mentor them and call them and check on them and just encourage them to be better people, to reach for goals in their life. And mentoring comes naturally with her. I've seen people adopt her in their family.
Yeah.
They either be aunt or mom or just in general, because she makes people feel like they're part of her family, part of her life, and they're important to her.
Cheryl Hall has been Vicky's best friend for decades. And what she's describing, this open door, generous approach to people, is what Vicky calls simply serving where you are. Now I can vouch for the fact that I don't think there's anybody you don't know. Everywhere I went in the agency where I served at the time with you, USCIS, everybody knew somebody who knew you, or you knew them. I mean, there were connections all across. with the many years of service you had. And I believe that is because of that principle you said, is you believed in just serving where you are. And that makes an impact on people. When you started, you were a clerk typist, but you completed your federal service as an EEO specialist.
Yes.
And you worked in disability employment. Can you tell me what is EEO specialist and what is disability employment? What are those? What do they do?
The EEO specialist does a variety of duties. I started as a investigator, EEO investigator. I was an EEO counselor, and in addition to those, I became the student program manager, and I investigated EEO complaints of discrimination. I provided EEO counseling to individuals who felt that he or she had been discriminated against. So we go through that process, and then at the end, give them the rights to file a final EEO complaint. So it's the pre-complaint stage and then the formal stage where you accept the complaint or not, and then you process it for investigation.
As an EEO specialist, you also worked in disability employment. How did you end up getting into the position as a disability employment program manager? Because I know you were in that position for a while as well.
When I went to U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services, my chief supervisor, who was the head of CIS, was a retired military person, and they wanted to do things for the severely injured veterans and active duty service members. So they tasked her to create a program to bring them into the workforce, not the traditional way, but the expedited way. So she tasked me to create this program to bring those individuals to the workforce. And so that's when I really started getting involved with those programs that are geared toward individuals with disabilities and veterans. It was hard for me because I'm sensitive to those who are sick or suffering. So I had to really work internally to be effective. But I think what helped me was my heart to serve. And so that was very impactful. You know, I asked God to show me what to do because I didn't know how to do that program. But the head of the agency believed in my supervisor, Tracy Thompson. She believed in me. And God just worked, made it happen for me. I just know that he did it. And I sometimes get emotional about how that program is still living today in the agency because it's about impact. It's about impact, not just going through the motion, but what is the return? How are people's lives being changed? How are those veterans transitioning from the military to civilian world? So it made me have many hats. And when at one point I had to work with another manager, and he didn't have the skills. I had the skills, but we worked well together because it wasn't about me. It was about serving the military population. And I'm excited about that program because I know God did it, and those individuals have had life-changing experiences because the managers really respected me. And so when I would refer those veterans and active duty service members, they would look at the application, not check it off the list, but be sincere about hiring those individuals because they fought for our country. They sacrificed for us. So I was just amazed at how God moved through me because from man's point of view, I probably wasn't qualified. But God says, if you serve me and give me the credit, I'll elevate you.
Oh, that's perfect. See, elevating good.
Yes.
I would say, to know Vicky is to know, first of all, that she's a woman of Christ. That's first, right? And anybody that knows her would say that. And then, from there, she's a wife. She's, a great mom, great grandmother, so forth, so on, as relates to family members. But I think the thing that really kind of sets Vicky aside, and you may kind of see this as a theme from the folks that you actually get a chance to interview, is this. is, she is always concerned about those that are in need, and she brings folks to that cause when she sees it.
Kelvin Brewington has known Vicky since he was 10 years old. He served in the Army as a defense contractor and now at the Department of State. He calls Vicky his sister from another mother, and he's been watching her in action for most of his life. Can you explain to us how you started? Because what the context that I know a little bit more about your background than our listeners do, is that you actually started, you were one of two people that were at the start of what's called the EEO program. And for our listeners, EEO stands for Equal Employment Opportunity. So you started the office in USCIS, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about what was that like? Because, you stood up that office, which now still stands today after how many years?
It's been over 25 years.
Yeah. So tell us what it was like being at the very start of that program.
Well, first, I didn't know what I was getting into. I knew that Tracy Thompson worked at my prior agency. And so she asked me to come work with her. And so not knowing that it was going to be in totality, I went to work for her as an EEO specialist. I was the only employee on her team. So that meant we had to do the budget. We had to create programs with little to no resources in terms of just she and I. And so I think just having that desire to create something that's going to have a long-term impact, and knowing that the law requires us to have a program, but I always strive to have an effective program. And so because she's a very good manager, and she gives you the latitude to do new things without saying, putting parameters on you. So I think with knowing that she was supportive and she trusted me, I went beyond what was required of me to do what it took to create the program from the ground up, along with her guidance. And so we had no EEO specialists, no special emphasis programs. But when you have a vision and you have a leader that believes in you, you can make it happen. And so we created the program and eventually hired new people, of one who had no EEO experience. But when she came on board, because sometimes we get caught up into what the person doesn't have, but give him or her an opportunity and work with them, and they can move the needle if you give them the resources that they need and not label them what they don't have. And so Tracy embraced all of us, but I just knew she really was a supporter of me, because I would go to meetings with her with top leaders. And I'm like, okay. She said, come with me to meet the director, a meeting in the director. So she didn't put limits on me. She didn't look at my grades. She wanted me to have as much exposure that I could have. And I think that is also embedded in me when I'm moving in areas that people need extra help or whatever. Don't look at what they don't have. Look at what they bring to the table. And she really entrusted me with a lot of things. And that made me learn, that made me go beyond the 8 hours a day, that made me protect her.
You say a lot of things that, I think are so important for women in whether business or in public service today. And that is when you have somebody who believes in you, like you said, and trusts you enough to give you the basic tools you need and then lets you run with it. What a difference it can make in how women can perform in the workplace. I mean, you gave that perfect example with when you started the office. You were given that, you had a leader, a female leader who believed in you and gave you the latitude, and she elevated you. She took you into spaces with the director's office. She took you to spaces where you probably may not have had opportunity to go before. Yeah, and that makes all the difference. So I'm curious, though, at that point, because this is, or just before that point, when you were entering federal service or public service, what was it like for women? Like, what did you notice about what was happening with women then as opposed to today in public service or when you retired? Like what was it looking like then for women?
I think that jobs were even more difficult for women to be selected in certain positions, like leadership positions, director positions. A lot of the positions were like, from what I saw, was like lower grade, administrative type positions, assistant type positions. And so I think that it has evolved because women are using their voice now more than before, instead of just saying, okay, I'll wait to the next position. But now use your voice and do it in the right way. But being just kind of quiet, as I was, kind of happy where I was. But I had people to kind of step in my life along the way and just saw things in me that I didn't see in myself. So imagine a woman in the workplace at a grade, but don't have that doesn't have anyone to pour into her life to say, hey, I know you're this, but I'm gonna help you become a GS9 or GS11. Those opportunities are very important because sometimes people feel like they can't do that. So just seeing from what's on the outside to help them build their self-esteem up, their belief that they can do it, helping them to, and give them some encouraging words along the way.
That's a good point that you make. So how do you think that you being a woman in the work you are doing gave you a unique perspective that maybe men may have missed?
I think what I look at is when there's something to be done or you want to get people on your team, how you communicate and build those bridges with the managers help you to help them see the big picture. Sometimes it's like, oh, you've been in my office before, what is it you want? Who have I discriminated against now? Yeah. So when I will call the office and leave a message, when I get a return call, it's like, okay, Vicky, who filed an EEO complaint this time? It was a stigma. And so I had to break that barrier down because I believe in establishing relationships with managers and supervisors because they are the ones that do the hiring. And so if I can build that bridge with them, then they will open up doors for others.
She loves to help other people. She's very inclusive. And I know some of that probably came from her professional life as well, working in that, diverse environment and always trying to make sure that people were equal and included as well. And I think she leaves a great legacy for her family, her children and her grandchildren, because she teaches them to think about other people and not just themselves.
So
she's serious when she needs to be, though.
Yeah, exactly. She can be really serious.
She can be really serious, and she can be really direct.
Yes.
And, she gives grace to others, but she also will be direct with you and give you her opinion. I think now, though, she kind of waits a little bit for you to ask. She used to be real directing, and if you want to see a good time or experience some laughter, just get her with those siblings of hers, and you just cannot help laughing.
Rosalind reminds us that behind the programs, the policies, and all the career wins, there's a woman who will absolutely get to the dance floor. That's Vicky. The same person who fought for equity in the federal government is the same person cutting it up with her siblings at a family reunion. So in plain terms, for somebody who, again, doesn't come from the federal service, is just hearing this for the first time, as an EEO specialist, why does that work matter? Why did it matter to be an EEO specialist, to do the work you did?
It mattered to me because it educated individuals, employees, and managers, and it gave managers an opportunity to see the adverse impact when they didn't select someone or when they treated someone differently based on the protective bases. for an example, because the individual was a woman, a female. So a lot of times we think that they know, but they don't know. But how we have those dialogues and break those barriers down and say, hey, I am an African American female, but if you have questions, I can have a dialogue with you and be okay with it. All I ask is that you be respectful in that dialogue with me, and I'll be okay with it. Mm-hmm. And so they need to know that they make mistakes, and that's okay, but learn from it. Because EEO, it has a great stigma on it. But we need to, I just wanted to break that barrier to say, hey, I'm not calling you because of EEO complaint. I would like for you to hire one of my students for summer positions. They were like, okay, Vicky, come on in the office, let's meet. And we will meet. And everything didn't happen like overnight, but it takes work in the process. It takes being intentional. It takes sharing errors that I've made in the EEO community.
So being vulnerable about some of the things that we, even as EEO specialists, get wrong sometimes. Yeah. Can you share a moment when you saw the EEO protections actually make a difference for somebody that you were working with or for or helping?
There was a young lady who had a disability, and she didn't realize she could have an accommodation. So it kind of went out of control. And so her manager didn't understand what her medical condition was. So when she would be absent from the office, he looked at it as she's not wanting to work. So it requires to just kind of, you have to look into the situation with your hats off, because there are some hidden barriers there for the complainant and for the manager. So she didn't realize she could have an accommodation because of her medical condition, nor did the manager. He didn't realize that. So without disclosing her disability, having that dialogue with him and letting him know this could be a case based on disability if you don't give her an accommodation for this medical situation. Now, sometimes the applicant or the employee is not aware of what disability is and what it isn't. And so just giving them the insight, it's not that you get a Lexus when you have a Hyundai, but to give you whatever that it is to make you successful in your job. And that your disability won't take away from your job, but this accommodation will help you perform your job. Or the flexibility needed.
Yeah, so that you can perform at a level that, is fair for you and everyone else in the workplace. So over the 44 years of public service, I know you've seen massive shifts in the workforce. You've seen big changes. What are some of the things that you think you have helped drive in the workplace over those 44 years of public service? What are some of the changes you've helped in EEO?
Some of the changes is training managers and supervisors on the equal employment opportunity training programs. The other one is assisting them with their needs, whatever that is, careers for others, job vacancies, student program. Because when we hire a student, you may not feel like the student can bring something to the table. And so I did get this from one of the managers. Well, and this particular person was my son. And he says, well, I don't see what your son can bring to the table. He's just a student. So I said, just give him a try. And if it doesn't work out, I want you to fire him. So a month later, he said, Vicky, I'm sorry. I said, for what? He said, your son is bringing a lot to the table. I'm sorry that I didn't see he could be adding to my office. I said, no problem. So if you don't know and you are looking at something that happened before, then you may not want to change the trajectory of what you want to do in the next one, because everybody's different. You have to look beyond what that exterior is. I gave him an analogy like when you buy a bag of apples, you might have one rotten apple, but the other apples are good. So you don't throw that bag away. You just throw that one apple away. And I said, even if the student doesn't work out, just know there are other students that need a job, and let's find out what happened to him or her.
Yeah.
So I love my student program. I love my disability program. I love my special emphasis programs, the Women's History Month, Disability Month, African American Month, Hispanic Month, all of them. I had a passion for them. And it was just, when the program was over, I was glad. But the most important part is that those speakers brought something to educate our workforce on that group. That was my end goal.
With her 44 years of federal service, Vicky brings great depth to this conversation. And there's more to explore about EEO, disability employment programs, and building a truly inclusive federal workforce. What in your career have you noticed about patterns of discrimination, let's say against women, in the workplace, just over the years? What have you noticed, if any, patterns?
One of the patterns I've noticed is that women are at a lower participation rate in senior level positions.
Okay. So less women in the senior levels.
Positions, yes.
Yeah. And do you think any of that it has become better over the years, even though it's persisted, like it's been there for a while, right? Is what you're saying. But has that changed over the years? Like, is it any better than it was 40 years ago?
I think it has. It has gotten better because some women there who are in senior leadership positions, they get the memo that it's not just a job that can be held by a male, but a female can perform the job as successfully as a male. It's just sometimes they're more comfortable with a male being in that position. But I think when you give a woman a position and give her the resources and tools, she can be equally successful in that job as a male.
And what do you wish that more employees knew about their EEO rights, their equal employment rights? What are some things you wish they knew more that they misunderstand?
I think I hope that they will get a clear understanding what EEO is and what it isn't. It's not when I'm angry with you because you took my telework from me. That's not an EEO complaint. However, when they come to us with that, we still have to go through that process and then terminate it at a later stage in the EEO process. And that a person is required as an EEO specialist to process his or her complaint like they do any individual in that workplace, no matter what his or her gender is or race. The EEO is for everyone. And it's not an opportunity for you to use it just to get back with your manager because you're angry with him or her. It is for you because you feel or believe that you have been discriminated based on whatever that issue is and the basis that ties to that issue. For an example, disability. I filed because you took away my accommodation. That can be filed under disability. But understanding what the bases are and what they are not. And the managers understanding their role in terms of giving everyone a fair opportunity and not singling out an individual person or a group.
There's a lot of discussion around DEI, around, DEI has been said is discriminatory. Some people are saying that, the whole area of EEO is used as reverse discrimination. So it's elevating Black people, women, and all these other groups, but it's not allowing white people, for instance, to feel like they're being treated fairly. What are your thoughts around that? That's what the dialogue is right now. A lot of people are talking about that right now.
I think you have to look at the hiring practices. I think you have to look at anything in the workplace that prepares you for the next job. If it be training, details, is everyone given that opportunity as that individual is? And if not, why? Because if you're trying to train people for the next career, then you need to look at those individuals who are ready for that next career in terms of their grade and their performance. But it shouldn't be based on anything but their grade and their performance, not their race or their gender.
Mm-hmm.
And don't change it when the other people get where they need to go, and then you pull the program back. That's unfair, and that's disparate treatment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think the EEO, equal employment opportunity, is sometimes misunderstood as being, oh, we're just focusing on Black people, women, and every other people with disabilities, right? But it truly is to make the workplace and access to everything from hiring to training to assignment for duties to tasks that are given to you and everything in the workplace equally or fairly granted to all people, right? So that's the idea, right? Like you said, it's not to lift someone up higher than someone else. And I think it's gotten, like you said, that's been misunderstood in the workplace, I think right now, especially around the federal government. What are some specific tasks that you did as a disability employment manager?
When creating any program, I believe you have to get the buy-in of leadership. So when I was creating these outreach opportunities, I would invite the managers to come go with me.
Mm-hmm.
It gives them firsthand knowledge of the potential student who could be a summer student employment or a full-time student, but engaging with the student in the student's environment, not in the office environment, and having dialogue to ask those questions and engage with the student to say, hey, I really enjoyed this conversation with her. I believe she would be a good accountant. But I can't bring that back to him or her. I can only bring the resume back. So having them to engage with those students and those veterans, it made a difference. Because whatever stigma he or she had about those individuals with disabilities or veterans, it changed how they viewed those individuals. And so I created the opportunity, but I engaged and encouraged the managers to come along with me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had some of the organizations to come in and do disability awareness training for the managers and supervisors. Because again, if you've never worked with a person or for a person with a disability, it can be a very uncomfortable experience. On how do I ask them stuff? Well, can I say that without offending him or her? So it's a bridge building opportunity. And I was able to see that vision, that it wasn't just me carrying the torch, but engaging all who can make it become a reality and a long-term reality.
Mm-hmm.
And then the applicant, the disability student too, I help them to say, in the workplace, this is how we interact with our supervisors. The deaf community, I was told, is very direct and aggressive because they want to be heard. So when that happened, I would have dialogue with them, one-on-one. Because what I did not want to do for managers to say, oh, those students are this or that, when that's not the case. Again, you bring it back to the bag of apples. One bad apple, take it out, but the rest are delicious.
Mm-hmm.
And I just grew very intentionally with them, and I had a heart for them because I know there's a stigma on hiring individuals with disabilities.
Mm-hmm.
What they can't do instead of what they can do.
Do you think that is the biggest problem in the workplace with managers hiring persons with disabilities is misunderstanding what they're capable of doing, or is there something else you think that managers just don't understand about?
I think the lack of seeing that the person has the skills and can perform the job. But I think sometimes they get caught into the disability. How can they do it? Or can they do it effectively? Or they can't do it effectively because of the disability.
Okay.
But having an advocate, it means a lot because that manager can come to me or whomever and say, hey, I'm having a difficult time. I want to hire Morenike, but she is visually impaired, and I don't see how she's going to be able to read these documents and making sure they are real documents and not forged documents. Then that's the time for a dialogue.
Yeah.
Say these are the resources you can have, and that person has to be qualified. He or she just has a disability, but they still have to be able to perform the job successfully with an accommodation. Well, what is the accommodation, Vic? Go back to the organization, bring them in to have a meeting with the managers so the managers can ask even more open, pointed questions about it.
Yeah,
it's about breaking down the barriers. Whatever that barrier could be, try to help break it down.
Can you give an example of either manager or an instance where they got it right? They engaged with you, they listened to the employee, they worked with the employee, the person was qualified, and they gave the appropriate accommodation, and it worked out well. Can you give some examples of that? Or one example?
There was a veteran who suffered PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, and so the manager didn't know what to do about that, and he had hired him. And so, of course, it was alarming for him because there's a misnomer about what is PTSD. And so he called me and we had a meeting, and I went back to the veterans organization, and they came in to provide counseling for that individual and also guidance on the manager on how to engage with him when that PSTD is at a rate that he can't function. Right? Because the human reaction is like, well, you need to go home. But let's just kind of get him someone who has the resources to help him manage it. And then you meet with him or her so they can give you some resources on how to engage with him and to help with de-elevating what he's going through. Because some veterans, you can't just touch them on the shoulder. You have to learn what it is that they have and how does that get exacerbated if you do the wrong thing. So it's about education and leveraging the resources that you have in your agency and in other organizations to make that a win-win for the applicant with the disability and for the hiring manager and the employees, because the employees are required to work with that individual. But if you don't understand a person's disability, you probably won't even interact with him or her.
Yeah, then they won't feel that they're included. They won't feel like they're part of the workplace.
Yes.
When you think about women who came before you in public service or in your life that have worked before you in hard jobs, difficult, meaningful jobs like the one you had, who particularly stands out to you that you think you're standing on that woman's shoulders and that person?
I had a manager. Her name was I think her name was Susan, and she was an advocate for me. There was something happened. The cleaning person came in and did something very disrespectful and talked to me disrespectful. So I didn't say anything. Well, my manager dealt with her in an expeditious manner, and I never had problems with that individual anymore. And she probably lost her job. Wow. But she really took an interest in me, and I was thankful. And it was almost, she treated me like I was her family, and I was just her clerk typist. But she showed me she cared for me, and don't tolerate when someone is disrespecting you. I mean, she just went. I mean, she didn't get angry. She just dealt with the situation with the contractor. And she just showed me that she cared and that I matter and that she see me.
Yeah, that makes all the difference when you have somebody, like you said, advocating for you.
Yes.
On your behalf, that has the power and has the position to be able to make a difference in your situation. Are there unsung women, let's say in EEO or civil rights history, that you think should be recognized for the work they've done in, public
There
service?
was an EEO director. Her name was Marsha Coates. I worked with her for a couple of years, but she was an advocate for those who were in the specialist series and just coming into EEO. And so I'm thankful for her because she took an interest in me and others to lead us down the path of what we need to do to get promoted to the next position. And I think that's so important because sometimes you can't see that vision when you feel like you are not qualified for the next vision.
Yes.
The next position. Someone has to be there to see and encourage you along the way. And so that's why I will always take time for those that were beneath me in grade, equal to me, and higher than me. Because we always need an advocate to help us along the way. Because we all have trials and tribulations in the workforce. We have situations that we are not considered. We are made to feel invisible. Yeah. And so that makes a difference is someone will use a voice to help that person along the way.
So what are some words of wisdom that you believe women today, maybe women entering the workforce today, and possibly even especially Black women, because sometimes there are unique challenges that Black women have coming into the workforce. What words of encouragement do you have for them as they're entering into work service? You're leaving, you've left, and now they're coming in. What words do you have?
I would say be open, engage with those that are different than you, and you always give something back and not just take something. So it's a win-win. And don't judge a person by her title, how she looks, or what she owns.
Wow. There's lots of wisdom, pearls of wisdom. One thing I really enjoy about you, Vicky, is you have so much wisdom, over those 44 years. I can't even count the number of times when you've just dropped something like that, and said, you know what, pay special attention to this because this may cause you some problems down the road. Or you'll say, remember to treat everyone fairly when you're doing this or that. And those things just, they kept me awake and alert as I was managing, like our team and different programs. What are some of the hard-won things that you've just learned over the years that, are true for you, that, absolutely you're working with people and you're learning all these things. You're in a place that is new. You're doing your job. What are some core truths that you have applied in your life that you would like to share?
That everybody's not going to be in your corner. And that doesn't mean that you've done something, and that everybody is not going to be there to give you a helping hand. I believe that for me, I'd rather give something than take it. And if we're working on something, let's do it together and bring whatever skill sets we have to get an outcome. I've always been an advocate for my managers and supervisors.
Yes.
I've always been that because I know that they have a heavy lifting and sometimes they might miss the mark. So if I know, then I'm going to let the manager know, hey, this is due, or I don't think we should do that, because it's a team effort. It's not an I mentality, although we live in a workplace that a lot of people are living in I. But I believe working with my manager and for my manager, with my colleagues, because the end result is what are we achieving? Now, it's true, I am a strong networking person to my heart. It comes very easily to me. So, and with that being said, I'm very resourceful to those who don't have those opportunities to know people or know what's needed. And so God just gave me one of those gifts. I can be networking just like my eyes are closed, but I don't use it for me. I use it for others. My sons both are graduated from college and everything, but my job didn't stop with them. It stopped with them, but it started with other young people.
Mm-hmm. I know that there are many people, when I was introducing your bio, there are many people that you truly have, just like in your bio says, brought along, that you've mentored, you've sown seeds in their lives, you've networked and opened up doors for them so they could apply for different positions. You've introduced them to people that have helped them, given them guidance in their career. So um, I bet if we put like a map out of all those people, we could like keep counting for days. But what are some, can you give some maybe examples, you don't have to name names, of people that you have just mentored, and what you've done to mentor them along your 44 years?
Well, this one person stands out. She's a veteran. And so when she came into the workplace, she came at a mid-level. And so I started sending her positions. And she was like, why do you want me to get another position? And it's a higher grade than you. I said, because it's not about me, because I want you to go beyond me, because it cost me nothing. And she did. She's near a GS 14, and I was very happy for her. And so the things that she needed from me, I gave them to her, because, God has been good to me. He gave me a good husband, 2 kids, but it just doesn't stop with my family. So that it was been quite a few that I don't remember in the federal government. I remember my coworker, Christine, told me at one time, who came with no experience. She said, Vicky, I don't have anything I'm bringing to this position. She said, you know everything about this job. I'm just not doing nothing. I said, you bring your strengths and I'll bring mine. Whatever you weak in, I'll help you. And what I'm weak in, you help me. And the end result is an effective program is what we want it to be.
One of the other things that she's taught me is how to be a person of action. Sometimes you can just sit back and know that something needs to be done, but then there's another thing to ensure it does get done. And no matter what the situation is, if you feel like you can take that on, then go ahead and take it on. And that's how she is. If she feels like she can do it, she will jump right in. And so, like I said, she's taught me how to be a person of action.
It costs me nothing. That's one of the most humble things I've heard anyone say about giving. And Calvin Brewington, someone Vicky poured into starting when he was just a kid, is living proof that those types of investments accrue value over time. Are there any other last words you'd like to share about words of wisdom or about your legacy after 44 years of service, or anything you want to leave?
To me, serving is not serving of things that you don't want. Serving is things that you want, but you want it more for her than you want it for yourself. And it's not a convenient time that you're going to serve sometimes. That means after hours, on lunch, but pour into other young women's lives along the way. Mm-hmm. Because somebody did it for me, somebody did it for you, and I'm hopeful that someone would do it for my grandchildren. Mm-hmm. But selfishness is not an equation when you want to serve and help develop somebody else. And I'm just so grateful that I've worked under your leadership, because you were open, you served us, you guided us, and you pulled your sleeves up and worked alongside us. I saw that in you, because if I didn't see it, I wouldn't say it.
I know that for sure.
So when there were times that I needed to do extra stuff, I did it. Mm-hmm. But as women, we can be very impactful in the other young people or any other woman coming into the workforce. I would go and meet some of them sometimes, and just introduce myself. Everybody's
Yeah.
not going to do that, but we need to engage with one another. And because you never know what someone is going through.
Yeah.
Being depressed, being sad doesn't come with a GS grade.
Vicky, I want to say thank you so much for, this time. It's been short, but, at least you've had an opportunity to share a little bit of the pearls of wisdom and a little bit of your experience. And you've had a fantastic run. I'll call it a fantastic run. Those years that you left so much, you gave so much of yourself, to federal service. I wish we had a chance to honor that more appropriately at the time you left, but we're grateful that we had you, I think, and I think the government's better for it.
And you asking me what I want to do next? Well, I do want to do my nonprofit, but lately God has been directing me to working with wives that lost their husbands through illness. So he put that on my agenda. He has me speaking to the funerals and stuff, which I'm like, are you serious, God? I'm not a good speaker, but it's been happening. And I said, I know he knows the plan for me better than I. But I know for one thing, without a shadow of a doubt, I will always elevate other people, whether I know them directly or indirectly. I will always lend a helping hand and encouraging word along the way. And thank you so much for being on your podcast today. And I pray that God will continue elevating you in the podcast and in your life.
Until I read some of the things about what she had done at her retirement, you never would have known that she had been in such positions and done such extensive traveling and just had done so many things, because to us, she was always just Vicky, the younger sister. And we realized at that time, and when they honored her at one of those retirement celebrations, it was like, oh my goodness, our Vicky has really been somewhere and done some things and made an impact on people.
She's devoted to God. She's a hard worker. She takes care of her family. She has compassion for others, willing to give. She's good financially, very wise. She's kind, and she's highly respected. When I say she's a strong woman of faith, she always wants to please God over everything. And I'm just so blessed to have her as my sister, as my best friend. I know that anytime I'm going through anything, I can always call her.
She's really been a blessing, and it's really been fortunate for myself, like I said, to have her in my life. I consider her to be my sister from another mother. So
yeah. Today, we've heard from 4 voices representing decades of friendship, and one faithful, consistent portrait emerges. Vicky Crawford is a servant leader, bridge builder, and the woman who will always find a way to get it done. This has been Elevating Good Podcast. I'm Morenike Ogebe. If this episode inspired you, share it with someone who needs to be reminded that good is still at work, and that one person serving faithfully where they are can change more lives than they'll ever know. Until next time, keep growing, keep listening, and keep elevating good in your own corner of the world.